Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. It's the Portal Paranormal tonight for sure. Jeez, it's just funny whenever you make a plan. It's an old saying I like. It says, if you ever want to make God laugh, make plans. And certainly that was the case tonight. It's just audio issues and stuff. And sometimes the weirdest, quirky things come up and send everything into a tailspin. So that's been the case tonight here. But we're finally at it and back with you. Thank you all for your patience while you waited for us. And we're going to get this show rolling. Before I go any further, just a quick special thank you to the sponsor of the Paranormal Portal. Of course, I'm talking about Cryptid Coin. It's a newer cryptocurrency that has its heart in cryptid research and investigation. So if you want to see if that looks like a good fit for you, by all means, check them out at cryptidcoin.io. Again, cryptidcoin.io. It's right on your screen there. So maybe it's a good fit for you. It's available now on Pancake Swap. So check them out. And special thank you to Cryptid Coin for sponsoring the Paranormal Portal. So let me stay on that screen because I will use this screen to welcome tonight's guest. He's a longtime friend of the Paranormal Portal, and I know that many of you probably are very familiar with him, but I'm talking, of course, about our good friend, Mr. Gary Lynn of Australia Yowie Research, or AYR. Gary, are you there?
I'm here, mate. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm just going to get everything all lined up here so that we can have a proper conversation. Thanks for continuing to work with all that. I know it's like the weirdness that is the interwebs. They always throw curveballs at us, so I do apologize for that. I guess we probably should have tested it before showtime, but the schedules and such. But how's everything in Oz, man? How's it going?
Mate, it's good. It's been interesting, actually. We've been quite busy still.
Uh-huh.
The areas around us are still very, very active. We had a little bit of a hiatus with weather and trying to get the team lined up and that kind of thing.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah, mate, it's been great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, and I it's like the seasons fly by so fast. So you guys are just moving into fall, or no, wait, you're moving into spring. And summer. Yeah. Now, do you guys do expeditions all calendar year, or do you usually aim them towards the warm months, or how's that work over there?
Well, it's much more comfortable, obviously, in spring and summer.
Sure.
But we still get there as much as we can all year round, regardless if it's spring, summer, autumn, or winter. And even when it is winter, it's not very fun. It can be very uncomfortable. But we still do hook up our hammocks and try and brave the cold.
Oh, seriously. And what is cold there for a winter in Australia? What kind of temperature are you dealing with?
Mate. So depending on the location, I think we're sort of pushing around the 5-10 degrees at night. Sometimes a bit colder.
Oh.
That's Celsius.
Okay.
I'm not too sure what that is in Fahrenheit, to be honest with you.
Well, it's way too close to zero.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my math.
Exactly right.
I don't know the Celsius breakdown either. Let me check that out. What is 5 to 10 Celsius?
It might be like 35 Fahrenheit, maybe something like that.
Yeah, that's still
30.
plenty cold. Yeah, it looks like about 10 is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so 50 to 0, of course, is freezing. So that's when you guys get snow. Do you guys get snow in that area where you generally investigate?
No, see, being up here in Queensland, it's a bit more of a tropical state. Down south of Australia, they get plenty of snow down there.
Okay.
As you know, I live up in the mountains. It does get cold up here, but not quite cold enough for snow. Like we might see -1, -2, -3, but it doesn't quite get cold enough even up here in the mountains to actually snow.
Sure. And can you tell us, now you've been on the show before, but it's been quite a while. Can you get everybody kind of the overview of how you started in all of this? Where did this journey start for you, brother?
Mate, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So it started for me, well, I guess all my life I've been very interested in the subject of regardless if it's Bigfoot, it's ghosts, it's UFOs, ETs, all that paranormal kind of stuff. So I've always been interested in books and movies and TV shows and that kind of thing. It wasn't until probably 2016, 2017 is when I actively decided to actually go out and put a boot forward and actually go out there and try and investigate. So a good friend of mine, we decided to go out to a certain location for about an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I currently am, so southwest to the Queensland-New South Wales border. And we had no idea what we were doing. Like we big torches, we're going flashing torches around, which is something that, as Australian Yowie researchers, something we don't do anymore. We use red light only. Right. The only time we use white light is actually around camp itself. But anyway, yeah. So we're in this location, flashing torches around because we know there's been sightings and encounters in this particular location. And we've actually got Yowie Crossing painted across the road in this location. So we thought, well, let's go check it out.
Wow.
And that's when we set the bar way too high for our first time out. Obviously, being with Dean and the team now,
sure.
The bar's lifted way beyond this. But at the time, it lifted the bar way too high. So it basically started off where we picked a location and we walked around, flashing torches around, white light. And after about an hour, actually, in this particular location, we could hear something up on the hill moving around. Weren't too sure what it was. And then my friend Wade, he said he could hear something further down the road. So we jumped in the car, and this is where I learnt that you never turn the audio recorder off until the end of the night. At the time, I was using my phone, so I wasn't using an actual device, and like a specific designed audio recorder, just the audio recording device on the phone. So we jumped in the car. I've hit pause on the audio recording app. We'd driven probably a mile down the road from our location, a mile south. And as soon as we got out of the car, I hadn't had the chance to press unpause on the audio recording device app. And we got screamed at from about 10 meters away. So there's this big wall of lantana. It's like a vine / bush. Very, very, very prickly kind of stalk and branches to it. So nothing that's going to sting you like other plants, but when you walk through it, it will scratch you up.
Sure.
So it's this big wall of that. And about 10 meters behind that, big roar, big scream. It was that loud, you could feel it rattling in your chest. And then I pressed record on my phone. Which is kind of a shame because Yowie vocalizations are very rare, so they're very hard to come by. Even being part of Australian Yowie research, it's very, very rare that we've caught anything on audio ourselves.
Right.
Not that they don't vocalize, but the beings over here seem to be a lot quieter than the beings that you have over your side. So if I had have actually left my phone recording, it would have been an amazing audio capture that Dean would have been bouncing off the walls about. So that happened, and probably 30 seconds after that, we could hear some vocalizations from the north and the northwest, and we sort of stood there in the darkness, just waiting and listening. And every 15, 20 minutes, you'd hear the vocalizations again. But when they come through, they're actually louder because they're moving closer to our location. So I assume that they've heard this other being behind us scream, and then these other two have decided to come in. And over the next hour or so, it was them slowly getting closer and closer. And again, every 15, 20 minutes, they would vocalise again, I guess, as a point of reference to the one that was behind us in the bushes. And the whole time this is going on, they're screaming from the north and northwest. This one behind us is pacing back and forth. Boom, boom, boom. You can hear it back and forth. And then it just went dead quiet. It didn't leave. So, it's like you have the same thing over there when birds vocalise.
Yeah.
At the threat of a predator in the area, they go off their nut. So there's a bird back there constantly going off. So we knew that there was still something back there. And over time, vocalizations got closer, and then they just stopped. So we were talking maybe just over an hour away. Vocalization stopped, and it just went dead quiet. Just something that is quite often reported here, there, and everywhere. The forest goes dead.
Oof.
And we're standing there in the dark. And this particular location in the forest, even though we were standing beside the road, we're still deep in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
So you could kind of say we're not even on the road, we're actually in the forest in a sense. And we were standing about 2 meters apart, and it was that dark that particular night that we could not see each other standing in front of each other. Standing about 6 feet away from each other, could not see each other. It was that dark on this particular night. Mm. And we both had the heads of our torch on our chest, so there was no light escaping. But if we needed to, we could just flick it and bang the torches on. All of a sudden, I started to hear this buzz that would surround my head, like 1,000 mosquitoes swarm your head. Wow. I had no idea what it was. So am I seeing things? So I decided I knew where Wade was standing. I just couldn't see him. So I walked over toward him, and I let the beam, the torch off my chest just a little bit, so it gives some ambient light. Mm-hmm. And then he'd be able to see me, I'll be able to see his face, but it wouldn't light up the area. And I walked over, and I was just about to say, can you hear that buzzing that's encompassing and surrounding your head like 1,000 mosquitoes? And before I could say a word, he looked at me, and the look he had in his face told me exactly that he can hear it too. And like it was choreographed, we both spun around 180 degrees and hit our torches on this big wall of vine directly on the opposite side of the road. Mm-hmm. Could not see anything there, but we just turned around, bang, torches on the other side of the road. Then Wade got very rattled and nervous, and then we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. Mm-hmm. And we jumped in the car and left. And that was at the time when Brian Sullivan, Duke, was still kicking around on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So I sent Brian a message because at this point in time I'd heard of Dean, but I wasn't carrying his backpack like I am now. So I've contacted Brian and said, mate, this is what happened. Gave him a whole outline of the situation that night. And as far as Brian was concerned, he said we were both possibly hit with infrasound. Mm-hmm. That's, elephants, tigers emit the infrasound, very, very low frequency to disorientate or prey, or if an elephant comes in, send out the vibration, confuse you, they all leave. Mm-hmm. So as far as Brian's concerned, that's possibly what happened to us. And then we went out there multiple times after that, and again, that bar was raised way too high from that first initial outing there. And then, we kept going here or there, mm-hmm. A few other different places, including Springbrook, where the thermals were taken. Again, flashing white light around. I even bought a night vision camera, a decent night vision camera. As you know, they emit an infrared beam, and as we've worked out, these beams can see infrared. Mm-hmm. So again, that was no different to a white light,
Right.
So, and then I was again, being able to live in the mountains. We myself and mates ride bikes, so super sports. Sure. And I was on the way back up the mountain one day to come home, and as I'm going up, this car's flashed past me. I saw the number plate was Yowie, so we obviously know it's Dean's car with a Yowie number plate. So I've spun around on the gas back down the hill, not speeding to catch up. And I caught up to him, not speeding, and grabbed the bike and waved him. He pulled over, and I said, "Oh, you're that Yowie guy, aren't you?" Yeah, that's me. And of course, he's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. This guy on a bike's pulled him up, and what's this guy want? And then I proceeded to tell him the story of that first night out at this particular location, Mount Lindsay, which is on the border of Queensland and New South Wales. And from there, I was in contact with Dean from that point. And after that, I kept sending messages, mate, if you need a hand on your overnighters, on your expeditions, on your research days and nights, I'm happy to help out, carry your bags, whatever. And he actually asked me to come out one night. Unfortunately, it's bad timing. I couldn't make it. He asked me again a couple of weeks later, mate, I'm sorry, bad timing again. And the third time, he asked me, and I said to the wife, I don't care what we've got on. It's getting cancelled. I've already said no to this guy twice. Yeah. I'm going regardless of what happens. And it has kicked off a whirlwind of adventure ever since.
Yeah. You guys are absolutely machines, and I've watched several of the videos showing you guys going out, and I mean, it's no joke. Some of the jungle and forest areas you guys are in, it's rugged, and I if anybody's gonna find them, of course it's you guys, but you guys have got some amazing evidence as well, and even became international news. Of course, I'm speaking of the recent thermals that you guys got. When was that, last year?
It's getting close to 18 months ago, actually.
Yeah.
So it's time cranks on, mate. Cranks on.
I guess one thing that really surprises me, and I've been out a little bit looking for Bigfoot. I was just taking part in a documentary just a week ago, at least a part of it, and it's a whole different world. I mean, it's one thing to go out into the wild areas when you're, it's picnic time or it's, campground time. But when you're out in the real thick stuff, it's a different world. I mean, I felt absolutely out of my element completely. And it's intimidating as hell. But for you to go out the first time and have something screaming at you and calling in their buddies, I mean, that had to have been horrifying.
That's one way of looking at it, yeah.
but you stuck it out, though. You stuck it out. That's incredible.
Again, I've always had a thirst and a passion for this. Well, these days, I call it the real side of life, not this techno concrete jungle that we're all programmed to be in now.
Right.
This is the real world that we live in. And I think these topics and these subjects have always been a normal part of life, but in this span of the human civilization, like as Graham Hancock says, we're a civilization with mass memory loss.
Right.
And again, I think this has always been like a normal part of the human world. But again, this chapter, it's all been blocked out. It's been forgotten about. So I think it's been rediscovered.
Right. No.
And again, you can't do the research, sitting on the couch at home.
Right.
You need to go to these locations. You need to go check out the locations. You need to work out the terrain and the surroundings and where these locations link up to certain encounters and sightings. If something happened on the back of a property, what is the closest cave system, water system, area of cover, as in forest or thick bush, closest to this area? So you have to go check these places out.
Right.
Sometimes it's an easy walk. Other times it's a pain. Like really dropping deep into these valleys and whatnot, and Dean's not the most happy person with heights, and when I say that, I don't mean every situation.
Sure.
Certain situations, like crossing over the top of waterfalls and whatnot. There's certain situations where you go cross a waterfall this way, and then we get split up, and we'll sort of find each other and come back about 100 meters back down the hill or something like that. And it literally is hours of blood, sweat, tears, probably mostly from Dean. Dean cries a lot when we go out. No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
No, that's great.
But yeah, it literally is a lot of blood and sweat and time. That can be like the hard part sometimes when we do go to a location and it's taken us hours to get there, pushing through vine, not only lantana that scratches you up, but other vines that do have toxins and whatnot, and
oh geez,
you're itchy, itchy and sore elbows or shoulders or knees or neck or whatever scraped through these bushes and whatnot. we get to these locations and find, and also footprint, or we find these amazing tree structures, or we find, like, you know, the intricate symbols that we find, or the glyphs, or, you know, symbols or glyphs, whichever way you want to call them.
Right.
And then, you know, we post them up and people are like, oh, that's fake. You know, that doesn't happen. And it is tough when, you know, the team has just spent hours and hours pushing through the bush.
Yeah.
You know, down valleys, up cliff sides, like literally going deep into these areas. And again, yeah, you can't get these things couch. Yeah, and as you said, like with these thermal images, you know, technically that was twice confirmed, possibly a third time on thermal camera as well. So the thermals that you're speaking of, that actually kicked off from a let's call it an adventure on a dam that was down below, where we decided to go on the kayaks at night time and kayak to the very other end of the dam, which was a night that was filled with footprints and eye shine and strange light objects flying over top. And then when we like 4:30 in the morning, we decided to, you know, we're heading back across the dam. Of course, I'm last, so we're pushing the kayaks across the mud to actually get to deep enough water that you can use a kayak. And because we've had footprints, we've had eye shine that we worked out was about 10 foot tall.
Jeez.
Which 3 of us saw, and then Buck and one other guys that used to be with us, he and Buck both heard this big being move off up the hill when they went to investigate. We worked at the height of the eye shine. I found some footprints in the sand and whatnot. Of course, those feelings in the back of your mind when you're getting back on the kayaks, and you're the last one, and it's pitch black behind you. You can't run because it's thick mud,
right? And
you're trying to get the kayak as quick as you can. So then we get back to the other end of the dam to get back out, and it's then about a 3/4 of a mile walk back up a road to get to the cars to put the kayaks back in the van and that kind of thing. And once doing so, you go up to the van. There was some movement across the road in the darkness. I didn't think anything of it. And then when Dean came up and brought his kayak, Dean heard some growling and some grumbling. And then that kicked off what's going on that ridge line directly across the road. And so myself and Dean went back one day just to actually check out the location. And as we do, we always go in unprepared unless we actually set up and prepare for it. So when I say that, we'll go meet up and check out a location just to, you know, get an idea of the area, not actually go bush. And next you know, you climb to the top of a ridge and you're like, oh, probably should have brought some water. Hey, yeah. Okay, well, let's just go just that tree up there and suss that out. So we go up there. And we just, let's go to those bushes. Let's go. You just keep going and going. Next, you know, you're mile and a half up this ridge line. No water, no nothing. Every time we say, and you would think by now we learn our lesson, but we haven't. I think we just get so caught up in the moment and we just check it out, and
right.
So that's that's what kicked off the investigation on this ridgeline.
Sure.
And then we came back another day with 3 of us, and we actually hiked this ridgeline, got to the top of it, found this very rarely used trail up there, and we found another access point on the eastern side of the mountain. But before doing that is when we actually did a overnighter or an investigation down on the road beforehand, because obviously there's some kind of interest about this particular area. And that's the night that I got 2 of them on thermal. So I heard a big bulldozer noise come down through the bush. I pulled the thermal camera up, and this massive heat signature then split into 2, and then I could actually see it was two beings that had come down. That lasted about 15 minutes, and that continued on until it was over. Which then obviously leads on to, as you know, the unexplained or unexplainable part of it, you know, of this subject that people call the woo. which is when, again, I heard these beings come down the hill like a bulldozer.
Right.
When it was all over and done with, because basically what happened was a car came up. They obviously looked at the car, then saw us standing on the side of the road looking at them. And we got blinded by the car headlights. And then when the car left and we pulled the camera back up, they were gone. In this particular location, there's nothing big enough to hide behind. It's an area that, with these thermal cameras, you can watch bugs fly around.
Sure.
Like at night, you can actually watch beetles and whatnot fly around.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
And, well, mate, the weird thing is, like, when it was over and done with, there was no sound. There was nothing on the thermal camera. Again, this area is on the opposite side of the road. It's open enough that you can see something, even if it's moving off quickly, you'd see a faint heat signature disappearing as it goes off.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then after that, it's kicked off the investigation up top. As you know, we got those thermals, and again, 2 9.5-foot beings turned up. Buck heard nothing. When they left, heard nothing.
I think that's hard to understand because, I mean, you're talking about if it's a 9.5-foot being, this is 8, 9, 1,000 pounds of mass. And a lot of this area they're not groomed. There's branches and leaf litter and, all kinds of obstacles, but it's such an amazing thing that they can traverse that so silently. And it does make you kind of go, well, maybe they're doing it in a different way than we understand. And I don't mean just physically. I mean, like, maybe there is different, parameters that are involved in this that are just hard to wrap my head around, Of course, everybody's heard about the woo. Everybody hears the reports, and people have witnessed it. I've talked to many eyewitnesses. I can't say many, but a few eyewitnesses that have described it to me, and it's really hard to understand. But then when you think about that was very thick jungle, wasn't it? I mean, that was very thick. And how and is it possible that a 9.5-foot being could traverse down that through all of that poke up, and you've got the thermal to prove that it was there? It's just such an amazing thing, and it really makes me think that we're dealing with a lot more than we think we are. Even though it's hard for me to say that, it's hard for me to say maybe there's another element to these things, but I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. It's as you know, with the sight and sound spectrum, if that's the spectrum, we only see in this much of it.
Right. Yeah.
So for all we know, there's other beings sitting beside us right now who are part of this conversation.
Right.
We just can't see them.
Yeah.
And with the amount of reports that come through to us of things that you can't explain or can't understand, you need to start paying them attention because it's happening. And also included in that is their own personal experiences of seeing things or hearing things or finding things. I think we're at that point now where we'd be very arrogant to sit back and go, it's just an animal.
Right.
It's just a big ape. When clearly there's a lot more going on in this subject. It's as simple as the theory that these beings can change their vibration.
Right.
And all they have to do, if we only see this much, then all they have to do is change their vibration by 1 degree, and to our eyes they disappear.
Right. Yeah.
And we've had contacts. Look, I think Sarah might have spoke to you about it as well, about a bow hunter who saw one dematerialize, and he then had to walk through that area, very, very short time after, and there was nothing there. We get reports like that quite a lot, and then again, then it comes back to things we find, things we see, things we experience. Like that particular area that Bark got those amazing thermals. There's something about that area that has high significance. we've had a lot of strange encounters, strange findings, strange happenings in that exact location since the thermals were captured. It was not long ago that myself, Shannon Guthrie, who's part of our team, who almost hit one on his motorcycle going to work almost 2 months ago, which that was a funny story. I guess for us it's funny, but for him it's a bit raw.
Sure.
So yeah, myself, Shannon Guthrie, and Wade Matthews, who's part of the team as well. We're at the thermal location. Previous to this, Dean was there on the same day. So Dean went in there, and what Dean does a lot of the time as well, if he has a spare bit of time, Dean goes and sits in the bush. Mm-hmm. And what he does, he just sits and he stays calm. It's basically to become one with the bush.
Sure.
So the animals, the birds, they start to pay no attention to you. So you become part of the bush. Almost like a sniper setup, I guess you could say.
Sure. And
Dean's had a lot of activity and success in the past of just doing that, and then something turns up, not realising, like they might know he's in the area, mm-hmm. but they don't know where he is because he's, in a way, he's blended into his environment.
Right.
So Dean was doing that basically for a couple of hours, and then a bit later on, myself, Wade, and Shannon turned up, got on the radio. Dean, we've arrived. We just where the cars are parked. So Dean has a good idea of how long it's going to take us to get to base camp. Mm-hmm. And because he knows we're coming, he decided to go off by himself through the thick bush where there's no tracks, there's nothing. It's just straight, clean, thick bush. Mm-hmm. And he came across what he calls the yellow brick road, which basically is like a pathway that he found through the bush.
Wow.
Of a human, at a minimum, a human-sized path going through the middle of the forest in this particular area. This would be behind where the thermals were captured. So mm-hmm. Dean's gone off doing that, and we've almost gotten back to base camp, and he got to a point where he thought, maybe I should stop and turn around before I go too deep and then I get lost and whatnot. At the same time, then his movement in the bush is a little bit further away. He then hears heavy bipedal footsteps. So he starts coming back in the opposite direction to head back towards base camp. He can hear something back there following him, pushing through the bush. Didn't catch up. It was like it stayed at the same distance and followed him out.
Sure.
At the same time, I've left base camp. I've walked in an easterly direction, a northeasterly direction, mm-hmm. While Shannon and Wade stayed at camp. And Dean then comes out of the radio asking for a sound reference so he can make it back to camp a bit easier. So Shannon and Wade are whacking on trees and whistling and that kind of thing. And I was a bit further down the track again to the northeast, and I could hear talking to the north. And I kept saying to the guys, like, Dean's coming out up here. So we went back and forth for a bit and debating, no, Dean's coming out up here. I'm like, no, I can hear him talking on the radio over here. And it was a typical, I can hear talking, but it's far enough away, I can't understand what they're saying. Right. But to me, I know Dean's on the radio, so I think it's Dean. And then Dean pops out up here. And then, so then later on that night, Dean left. He had some stuff to do. Sorry, it's got the dog shaking the table. Excuse me.
Earthquake.
Yes, mate. This is what. If I give anyone some advice, please take this advice. So he's a 1 month-old neo mastiff. So we've always had mastiffs. Mm-hmm. Never ever name a dog Loki. Please don't ever name your dog Loki. As people know, he's the god of mischief.
Sure.
This dog is a real insert lots of words here. great pup, but don't ever call a dog Loki. Just trust me on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we're sitting at camp, myself, Wade, and Shannon sitting at camp in a triangle. We have a Bluetooth speaker off to the side playing like earth frequency tones and that kind of thing. Dean's left. Mm. And you heard this strange noise. What was that? And there's a whoo, 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 and something at the back where the thermals were taking, something cranked off at speed, making a whoo, 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 whoo kind of noise. Oh. That made us like, what is that? And then this massive thump, like a log or something heavy got dropped on the ground. That made us stand up. Straight away, we've gone and grabbed the thermal cameras. We're walking up the track with thermal cameras. And seconds after that, we hear a marsupial screaming in agony or screaming in pain.
Ooh.
So we're walking up the track, and there's no other sound apart from this marsupial screaming in pain. And this is in the exact location where the thermals were captured. So we're walking up the track in a line. We had two thermals, so Shannon's got one at the front, I'm in the middle, and then Wade's behind me, and he has a second thermal camera. We walked probably 100 feet west from camp up this trail, scanning the thermal cameras around. There was nothing. Like, it's the same location that Buck got these thermals. Scan with two thermal cameras to try and capture some kind of heat signature. Again, we can hear this marsupial screaming and screaming in pain. Oof. And after, say, another 30 seconds, I've turned around this way, I'm talking to Wade. And what we're talking about is Wade said, should we go in to where this screaming is coming from? And my gut was telling me no. Mm-hmm. No, we stay out here. And then Shannon turns around and goes, did you hear that? I said, no, I was just talking to Wade about going in there. And this is seconds, maybe 1-2 seconds after the screaming finally stopped. Shannon said he heard loud, wet chewing. Oh. So it was almost like this being was sitting at the back of our camp, watching us, observing us. And then it saw a quick meal, like a possum or something.
Okay.
So it's taken off, slammed this possum, or it's done something, captured the possum. It's screaming in agony, and then it's like was it toying with this possum?
Sure.
To get an observational standpoint of what are these three hairless monkeys going to do?
But that implies intelligence, though, right? I mean, they really are intelligent, aren't they?
Mate, that's what I keep saying to people all the time. These beings are not given enough credit for their intelligence.
Right.
I don't care if people believe them to be animals, or it doesn't matter if people believe them as another type of people. Mm-hmm. They still don't get enough credit for how smart they are.
Right.
And that also comes back to the reason why I call them beings. I don't think of them as an animal.
Right.
I 99% lean to them being a type of people. I probably should say 100%, but anyway. Mm-hmm. Lean to them being a people. And the reason that I've come to that conclusion, again, this is my personal view. I'm not saying that the world has to start looking at them as people, but this is my personal view.
Sure.
This opinion comes from our own experiences, our own findings, plus with the amount of people that contact us literally every single day via email, via Facebook Messenger, via text message, via the person on the street who sees the sticker on our vehicles. So from listening to these people and reading their reports, that's why I 100% believe they're more of a people.
Sure.
And they don't get enough credit for their intelligence, because they're very, very smart. You know, they're not human smart, and when I say that, is they have no need for cars and phones,
sure,
pictures, TVs, anything like that, because that's not part of their world. Obviously, their world is of the earth and of the forest, so they're smart from that side of it.
Sure.
And I think comparing intellect of a modern day human is the wrong way to go about it. It needs to be a much more basic sense. For all we know, they are just as smart mentally as us, but there's no need for them
right
to use those intellects. You know, and they obviously haven't taken those paths to get to that point.
No, that's a great distinction, because I think we equated intelligence to mean, can they build a car, can they build a rocket
That's
or an
right.
airplane, and we that's a very specific kind of intelligence. But I think that in their their reasoning, in their strategy, in their in their ability to stay hidden, and stay a step ahead of every person. It is a pretty incredible intelligence. And also you hear the reports about, I really think that they are like masters of psychological intimidation and warfare, because even if you're in their area, it starts out real gentle, like maybe some pebbles, and then some other things, some noises, and then the sticks breaking, and then but it's, if a person stays in that area, it ramps up geometrically the things that they're doing to try to get people out of there. But and they just really will not let a person have a moment of peace. Like, they're always cranking up the anxiety, and it's brilliant when you hear how they how they do it. And that's not just an animalistic response. It's a very calculated response, and I'm always amazed by that.
Yes, no, they are super calculated in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And on saying that, look, the ability for them to stay hidden, even in very obvious locations, be it on a property around a house or on a campsite, the reports that come in and the interactions that people have, you'd expect there to be 1,000 photos out there.
Yeah,
but they're very they're very calculated in their distance,
right.
And their distance, their interactions, how they go about moving through these areas. As simple as when someone contacts us and they don't want these beings around their property,
mm-hmm.
so we tell them to put up trail cameras, we tell them to put up sensor floodlights,
sure.
to keep them away from the house. And then you have these beings that go and jam sticks in the ground, so they have a reference marker of how far the sensor floodlight could pick them up.
Mm.
That's a super intelligent act.
Right.
I think for the most part, if you had humans sometimes wouldn't think about doing that.
Right.
They probably try and sneak in very, very slowly. Every 3 seconds we'll move another inch, mm-hmm. to try and beat the sensor light. But then again, these beings are putting in markers so they know how close they can come to the house, to the property.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got the stick symbols. Mm-hmm. That we find all the time, which are very intricate symbols for the most part, and we find these symbols in different locations. So it's obviously some kind of language that they're using. We obviously know they use a vocal language, but they're also using a bush symbol language as well.
Sure.
And again, like we found the same symbol in different locations.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to ask you that. Have you seen a continuity of these symbols between different expeditions? Like, are you seeing, this is a symbol we saw the last time, it's very similar? I think the ones that really I find incredibly interesting are the ones where you guys have gone through an area, and then you'll come back through that same path, and there in that path is a stick jammed 6 inches into a really hard packed ground, and it's like, that's a marker. That's either it's directly for you guys, like, we know you're here, this is how, we know you walked right through here, or is it a marker to them, like, hey, there's people, here's the path they took? That's, you kind of look for a language, with those kind of things. Who's the message for? And that's what I'm kind of wondering. Is it for them or is it for us? Are they like, yeah, we got you, we know you're here? And then, but the glyph with the variety of intricacies, I think, has to be a language. I think you're absolutely right. And it's fascinating. Absolutely.
It is, mate. And what adds to it as well is that they will use multiple sticks. Like, if they're making like a triangle, it'll be, the two uprights of the triangle, the bottom has 2 sticks, or the side has 2 sticks. So it obviously means something in some kind of way. Right. And on top of that, when we do find other triangles, it's often made out of 1 stick, so that they'll snap a stick in 2 locations to form the triangle. But when they break it, they never break it enough that the bark will let go. They break it so the meat of the stick has let go, but the bark hasn't let go. So the triangle's there, but it's still joined as one stick. It's one of the things I've researched quite a lot, trying to find some kind of direction or understanding ancient Sumerian rune stones, trying to find something that correlates or lines up with these symbols. But the closest I've come to is Reiki, and a guy that I know that does Reiki, and I was talking to him about it, and I told him about the symbols, and I asked him if he had any idea, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but it goes back thousands and thousands of years, and certain triangles, depending on which side of the triangle the sticks are on, like if it's two sticks on the right side or two sticks on underneath, they're like arrows or directional markers. So possibly sometimes these triangles might actually be directional markers telling us which way to go, or telling each other which way we've gone. But then you come across other symbols which don't say anything like that. They're much more intricate, made up of up to like 25 sticks to make a triangle, and there's no definitive direction that it points to. But one thing we always note is that these sticks these symbols that are made up of these sticks, they always lay them under, over. So it's not just to put a stick down, put a stick down. They're all woven, under, over. So it's been placed with intent, and it's been placed with intelligence, to not just be a random. So that, again, that's an easy way to ascertain if it's a natural arrangement, or that Mother Nature's throwing sticks out of the trees. It's these beings have actually put intellect and thought into it, and it's hard. I mean, I keep searching.
Right.
I haven't gotten that close to finding anything in our human knowledge that comes close enough.
Sure. And I do know of researchers over here, and I talked to one who has an interesting theory, and I don't know, do you guys see the tree breaks, like the small saplings broken? What he correlates with that is that they're broken in such a manner as to point towards water sources. Have you heard of that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So water, caves, direction, easier routes of travel, points of interest. It's the same thing over here.
Okay.
We not long ago we even found a big X marker in the same area as the thermals, not the same particular ridgeline, but the same general national park area. We found a massive big X marker, and I went and had a look in behind this X marker, and there was fresh broken saplings and whatnot pointing in directions which were heading down towards the dam. So we look at those as street signs as well, and then we got the big X markers like yourself. We find the TP structures and the other lean-tos and shelter kind of structures as well. It heavily resonates with activity that you have over there.
It's really interesting, and that's one of the things that really boggles my mind, because again, if they did have a common ancestor, they've been separated for tens of thousands of years or more, and yet there's such a continuity in these behaviors, even between these very disparate, relatives or distant relatives or whatever. And I find that fascinating, that still those same traditions seem to be consistent across the water and in our different continents. It's like, wow, this is, maybe there is an esoteric part of this, that they're able to somehow, talk, to each other, even across the scope of the world. But, it's just, it's very hard to understand what's going on here. But you're right. I think it is a complex language. Of course, everybody knows about the Sierra sounds and that very comprehensive. Well, I don't want to say comprehensive, but there's obviously a structure to it. And again, that's an intelligent thing. I think maybe all animals have a vocabulary and to a degree, but they seem to have an actual robust language, in the form of symbols, in the form of sounds, in the form of, noises like the clapping, or wood knocks or tree knocks or rocks, everything. And it's this whole culture that they have that I find fascinating,
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the amount of times that we've heard tree knocks and whistles, and I've actually noticed a fair bit as well. When they whistle for the beings over here, anyway, a lot of the time it's in three tones, not just one whoop. It's three tones of whistle.
Oh.
And it is even like a certain location which is below the thermal location, but on the northeastern side.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about this creek, which actually comes back to where the scat that I found, which I'll come back to that in a second. There's something special about this particular area, and myself and Shannon walked in one of the ranger gates halfway up the hill, and when we got close, we got far enough in, we heard a whistle down in the valley below us, and a tree knock on the hill above us. And the amount of times we've had that, so like it's we walk in there like because we've been doing this long enough, we naturally go in quietly. We keep our voices to a low tone, and trying to make too much of a disturbance to the area. And I'm assuming that they obviously heard my ute pull up at the gate, so that's alerted them to it. And we walked in 100 meters and whistle in the valley, tree knock on the hill above us.
They knew you were coming.
They know. Like, it's like they even know with the thermal location. They know when we're there.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we're being quiet, nothing's going on.
Right.
They know we are there.
So we got a question in the chat from Maggie, who says, "Gary, do you think your energy in the bush helps you?"
I think Brent knows what I'm going to say here. Okay, so what a lot of people don't realise about the night we got the thermal images is myself and Shannon were meditating half an hour before the night actually began. Mm-hmm. And for most of the night, I actually had the earth frequency playing through my phone in my pocket. Not loud, but loud enough you can hear. We've had a lot of interactions, I guess you could say. And I'm not going to say this is the exact reason, but I'm going to say it does have something to do with it. Mm-hmm. So we go into areas with a positive intent, not to cause disrespect. We go in there and put out that intent to the area to make peaceful contact. And 90% of the time when we go in there, myself and Shannon will go off and meditate and put that intention out to the area. We've had multiple times where we've gone to areas and meditated. Here's a good example. So we have a location called Bellberg Grove, which is in the same state, but it's off the side of Brisbane, which is the capital city of Queensland. A place called Bellberg Grove. So we went in there as a team one afternoon for a nighttime expedition, and we walked a fair way into this national park, and up on this track, I sat on top of a hill, and I sat there meditating, and again putting out that intent to the area. And before we go any further, everyone needs to meditate. You ground yourself, you'll feel better. You'll have more peaceful life if you meditate. It's centering yourself. It's not kooky. It's not spooky.
Sure.
It's not the Addams Family. It's center yourself. It's even a moment of personal relaxation after a bad or a big day or high energy day. It's a moment of self relaxation to get yourself right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I was up on this hill meditating, and Dean and a couple other guys down in the creek below, for about 60 feet down below in the creek. Dean looks up through the trees, could see me meditating on the hill. Okay, Gary's up there, no worries. About 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, he moves position, looks back up through the trees. Oh, what's Gary doing? And to my right, there was a big embankment with tall grass.
Mm-hmm.
When Dean said, "Oh, what's Gary doing?" he could see this from his location. Was a bit of a distance through trees, through bushes, so he couldn't get a proper sight reference of me. But he saw this large being walking toward my location.
Oh,
I'm talking like late afternoon, twilight kind of light.
mm-hmm.
This big human-like object walking towards me. So Dean, in Dean's mind, he thinks that I've stopped my meditation and I've gone for a walk. He then walks back out of the creek, looks up, sees me still sitting there meditating. I had no idea if any of this was going on, obviously. All I hear is I came out of my meditation because I can hear the footsteps of running. I open my eyes, Dean's running straight at me. What's he doing? Runs straight at me and then runs straight past me. Righto, whatever. And then he comes back and tells me that he thought that was me up on the hill walking towards me.
Wow.
But it wasn't. I was still sitting there. The night that at the same area where Dean captured one eye shot, one peeking around a tree, same thing, go meditate, put out that intent to the area. I think there's a very high chance. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this because for some silly reason, people are set in their ways and they can't be open to it. This is where I believe that even if you don't believe or you don't want to go down that road of energy-wise or frequency-wise with these beings,
mm-hmm.
I think people need to be more open to it, because whether these closed-minded people like it or not, a lot of reports, and I mean a lot of reports, come through that you cannot explain other than frequency and energy and whatnot. Even on your side of the fence over there, like there's a lot of reports coming over there as well,
mm-hmm.
that heavily mirror stuff that goes on over here.
Yeah. And
it comes back to, can they change their vibration? So yes, to answer your question, Maggie, yes, I think energy and vibration has a lot to do with contact.
Sure. And
I also believe that's why we have not had any aggressive encounters. We've been to locations where an aggressive encounter has happened,
mm-hmm.
or we've gone there. We've done our thing with meditation and whatnot, and sure. we've had activity. We've been paralleled up the track.
Mm-hmm.
We've never had an aggressive encounter. And when I say that we never have, I don't mean that we believe that these beings are our happy forest friends. I do not believe that at all. What I mean by that is, just like us, they can have a bad mood, they can have a bad day.
Sure.
I often tell people that it's like when you go into the pub. Depending on what day you go down there, depends on what day you're going to catch people in a particular mood, a particular circumstance, sure. and that's going to have an effect on how you interact with these people. Mm-hmm. There's those people that go to the pub, they have a few drinks and they just want to fight. Mm-hmm. They might have had a really bad day, or something, that they've lost someone, something's happened.
Right.
They just had a they've had a car accident 2 hours ago, and their energy's all over the place, and they just need to relax.
Right.
I often tell people that with these beings, it's the same thing. So I'm not saying that every time you go out there, you're going to have a happy experience. Right. You might have encountered one day, or experience one day, where a young male has just been kicked out of the troop because he's coming of age.
Right.
Of course, he's going to be upset with that. He's now had to leave his family, mm-hmm. and go out and move out of home. So he's going to be upset. His energy is going to be all over the place. It's going to be high, and he's going to be snapping trees and breaking things.
Right.
And then some silly humans walk past, and next you know, what are you doing in my new house? I've just moved in here. Now you're walking through my lounge room.
Right.
And they start getting rocks thrown at them.
Right.
So that's generally the sense that we look at it. We don't look at them as in they're all big cuddly teddy bears.
Mm-hmm.
We look at it as it's situational to the time, to the day. But again, that's why we use the meditation. Again, that's why we put out that positive intent.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's the right way of doing things. I'm saying this is what we do, and it works for us. And with this type of research, you can't just go down one road. You have to investigate all different aspects, all different vantage points of trying to work out the best way to get the research done.
Right.
Because there is no set way of doing this. So you need to be open and try lots of different aspects.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think you're right. And I was gonna say that energy affects everything, and certainly what you're doing and what you're talking about makes sense. But even in the way that you act, let's say you know of an aggressive dog. Well, I watched that Caesar, the dog whisperer guy, and he talks about just being in a calm, relaxed state. And the dog will mirror that. And certainly when you see those real high-strung dogs, they're reflecting that energy from somewhere, usually their owners or the situation they're in. But, you can counteract that by getting into a real calm state. And I think that's powerful because it does show that maybe there's physical characteristics to that for us that we're less threatening, but maybe that energy is being received by all kinds of things, whether it's the world around us, whether it's other animals and beings, and certainly, nature responds to that. I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest that. So, and I think it's very powerful. And what you're doing, I think, is awesome because you're putting yourself in the right frame of mind and projecting that out. And I think that, we all receive that, even if we don't know it on a conscious level. There's some people that make us feel calm and happy, and there's no really understanding why. It's just, I like being around this person. It just makes me feel good. And then there's the other people. It's like, oh God, you walk into a room and you can, oof, what is with that person's energy? So I'm with that 100%. I think you're absolutely right. We did have another question here. Maggie asked another one, but I'm going to get to one from Rachel first. And Rachel says, have any piles of fruit or seed husks been found, like walnut shells or similar things that are sometimes seen on forest floors in North America? What nuts seeds are in Australia? Are you guys finding like where maybe they've fed and cracked open any seeds or whatever?
I've got two, I guess you could say, stories to tell about that.
Okay.
But they don't specifically designate to fruit and nuts as such. So in a thermal location, Dean and Wade were in there not long ago. And this is a couple of weeks after we had that strange encounter with the marsupial screaming and the chewing and whatnot. Wade and Dean found a gut pile, this location, stomach, the intestines and whatnot. From a herbivore. When they poked and prodded, they could see it was all grasses and seeds inside the stomach. So we found that again in the thermal location, and we'll now take you to the Pilliga. So the Pilliga is in New South Wales, the next state south. Mm-hmm. The Pilliga is known for aggressive encounters, which I put it back to a very, very high territorial display kind of area. So amongst the trucking community, it's known that there's certain truck stops at rest areas that you do not stop at in the Pilliga. The Pilliga is basically like a big national park as such. A little bit dry. It's not as moist as what it is up here, bit dry terrain. Mm-hmm. And truckies will often have times, if they do stop in these areas, they'll wake up to something shaking the truck and they'll look at the passenger driver's window. There's a big face up against the glass, shaking the truck. And
oh no!
Yeah. So, we had a contact send us an email. I organised for a phone interview. I was expecting a half-hour phone call, and 3.5 hours later, at 11:30 at night, I'm still on the phone to him. He's been having activity. He lives in the Pilliga, sorry. He's been having activity around his property for 20 plus years. So he's well aware of what it is, who they are, what they do, where they are. It's normal life to him. And he basically said it come down to a point where there's a mutual respect. He knows who they are. They know who he is. They're not on come over for a beer kind of terms.
Sure.
But they know who each other are. So he can walk through his property at night with no lights. He can hear them around, but nothing happens. Because again, that mutual respect. Over the years, he's had many strange things happen. He's had animals killed. Like one of his horses had a metal stake punched through the horse.
Oh,
obviously killed the horse. The stomach was opened, but the only thing taken was the liver, the most nutritious part.
Wow.
And then coming back to the pile of fruit or nuts.
Sure.
This is where he had chicken incubators. He came home from work one day, and all of his incubator boxes were open. All the eggs were gone.
Oh.
He obviously has an idea of what did this. I think it was either that afternoon or the next day. He goes to walk up the paddock and finds a pile of eggs up the very end of the paddock. Pile of eggs.
Wow.
And on the end of each egg was a finger-sized hole punched in the top of the egg. So it was like 30 protein shots. So he'd just been sitting there, protein shot,
boom,
protein shot,
yeah,
protein shot. Just a pile of eggs, all with a finger-sized hole punched in them.
And these eggs were carried to that location for that to happen too. I mean, that wasn't a kangaroo.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, not put him in the pouch and
yeah. That's incredible.
And like this area, like he's had so much in the last 20 years happen in this area, and the main reason he contacted us was to get a bit of advice or whatnot, because in the last couple of weeks before I spoke to him, he's had some not so happy encounters.
Oh.
And he basically put it down to either a new troop or a new male who's by himself moving through the area didn't understand that they had a mutual respect for each other. So he and the troop that lived in the area, this other being didn't realise there's a relationship. So now when he goes out to the shed at night to get eggs or whatever, he gets stuff thrown at him, he gets growled at, he gets screamed at.
Oh man!
And he's like, "What's going on? Like nothing's changed. Like I'm still your friend." Like,
right.
So that's where it came down to. Is it another male or another troop moving through the area?
Right.
And even to the point where they're actually trying to open the door to the front of the house.
Oh God!
He used to leave it because it's a very hot, dry area.
Sure.
So during the day, he'd leave the doors open so the air goes through the house. The dogs can come inside. He stopped. He put a stop to that for the fact that he came home one day. The house is turned upside down. Fresh loaf of bread that he made gone. He made this bread night before. It's gone. Fruit bowls, everything's gone. Again, the house is upside down. Couch is flipped up. It's like someone come to ransack the place.
Oh,
but all they'd taken was the fresh bread and the fruit, which is, if a human's breaking into a house, you'd be taking everything, not just the bread and the fruit. So once he did that, the attempt to open the door handle started, and he'd sit there and he could hear chit of the door handle trying to be opened. And that's when he realised that something was off, because this troop that he's had in his property for 20 years, that's never happened. They live over there and he lives over here.
Right. And
again, they have that mutual respect.
Oof.
And even while I was talking to him on the phone, I wasn't there, so I can't say this actually happened. But
sure,
I can tell you what I did hear.
Okay.
So while I was on the phone, I could hear some strange noise in the background. And I could hear tapping. I just figured it was him tapping his foot, or Neo puppy shaking the table.
Sure.
Something's going on that's normal. And he went quiet for about 10 seconds. Like, you there? Yeah. hang another 10 seconds. He goes, can you hear that? And I said, what? And he goes, that tapping noise. I said, yeah, I can actually. I thought that was you. He goes, no. He goes, there's one tapping on the air conditioning box outside the window right now. So that shuffling noise, he said, was one coming down the sandstone blocks. And now it's tapping on the air conditioning box while he's on the phone. So I became a passenger for a minute or two while he's going, I know you're there. I know you're there. Stay outside. Leave the door alone. I can hear you. And and this is why I'm talking to him on the phone.
Right.
Yeah, and like we have so many encounters like that come through to us.
That's got to be troubling, though, because I mean, there's a nightmare scenario about habituation, and the nightmare scenario is and this guy doesn't know what changed, but something changed. Either that, or like you said, maybe a new troop pushed out the old troop that was there, and now they're looking for the gravy train, and they don't know the rules, but. It's always a story that ends up usually pretty tragically in some way or another, because once their food, they aren't getting what they think they should be getting, the tantrums are just off the charts,
Yes. Yeah, and like the amount of encounters we have of them being up on the deck of the house, or looking at windows while you're watching TV. Very common, very common. Even down to a lady who has seen a white one looking through the window of the house on a regular basis at night, and then her husband was going to work, I think 4:30 in the morning, and her and her sister went out on the deck to have a coffee. And sorry, just get the puppy out of the way. I'm sorry, but you're going to do something naughty.
It's all right.
I'm getting the sad eyes now.
Oh.
Anyway. So about 4:30 in the morning, her and her sister out on the deck having a coffee while the husband leaves to work. And as they walked out on the deck, boom, 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 they turn around and they see this big white being, jump off the patio and run off into the darkness.
Oh my God!
And if they can get that complacent,
right,
looking through a window, there's certainly nothing stopping them opening a door handle.
Right.
Yeah. And if they can unhook the latch to a chicken coop,
right,
again they'd have no issues opening a door.
Yeah. That's really scary, because you don't know. Where does that escalation end? I mean, is somebody going to be on the, torn apart, or God only knows. But there are stories like that out there where they've gone into house, and one comes from a reservation, I think on the Navajo, where a guy was having problems with one, and then it finally just blew into his house and basically tore the guy up and threw him on the roof, and that's where his body was found, up on the roof. He was thrown there. So that's not your normal thing, but yeah, that's all kinds of scary. There's another question from Maggie, and this is the other one she asked. She says, is there anything other than a human that could make a tree knock sound in Australia?
Good question. Like, we don't have bears.
Right.
At the closest I could think of to making knocking sounds, it'd be a bird. Even with cockatoos, they scratch up trees quite bad, and when they do it, they're doing it like 6, 9, 15 foot high, and that often gets mistaken for Yowie activity. But it is quite often cockatoos trying to get grubs from inside the trees. Okay. So I think at the most part, birds might do it.
Sure.
But again, like what you have over there, when you hear a tree knock, you cannot mistake a tree knock.
Okay.
It's like a baseball bat hitting a tree.
Right.
There are obviously sounds in the forest and in the bush at night, And even a possum sounds like an elephant in the bush at night. That's why it's great to have these thermal cameras.
Sure.
Because you'll be sitting in a location by yourself, away from camp. The team is all spread out, and you hear this creepy noise, and you pull the camera up, and it's a possum.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I suppose there's the anxiety level's a little higher too when you're in the darkness in the woods. You're already at such a disadvantage. But yeah, any noise would be like, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's really calmed the team down a bit sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like having these thermal cameras, like there's even like with wallabies and kangaroos. At night time, where they rest at night time, sometimes if you're walking through an area and you get too close to where the roos or the wallabies are resting for the night, they start slapping their tails on the ground.
Oh.
And it's the boom, boom, boom. Oof. And it's not that bouncing, it's them just slapping their tails as like a warning to stay away from them.
Right.
Yeah, as we know, kangaroos like to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even kangaroos can sometimes be mistaken for heavy footsteps at night.
Right.
But again, once you are able to distinguish the difference between a kangaroo flopping its tail, one of these beings actually walking off, it's the same as tree knocks.
Sure.
You can't mistake a tree knock.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, I just put on the screen next to Gary's head, I put one image. Now this is a mock-up. This isn't as it occurred, but the Yowie standing in the back is roughly nine and a half feet tall, and the thermal image standing next to it in this mock-up is Gary. So they're in that same position, and you can see the size difference between them and how this could not be a person, because it's like he's standing in front of the Incredible Hulk. I mean, it's just amazing. The size is just incredible, and this is based on the footage that they captured that really was internationally acclaimed, and it's some of the strongest thermal footage that's ever been produced, if not the strongest thermal footage ever been produced to help to validate and authenticate the fact that there are these large beings in our wildlands. And that's you and you're how tall, Gary? 6?
Yeah, 6. So that white line in my head is a 6 foot line.
Yeah, that's 6 feet tall, and so this is it's just incredible. And when you're out there, I mean, this is what I think of. So I'm about 5'10", so I'm a little shorter than you, but you're out there in this darkness. We're already at such a disadvantage, and then there's these beings that are absolute forest ninjas. They just, they're there and gone. They are stealthy. They are absolutely incredibly adept in their environment. And, it's very intimidating to think that you could be standing next to a tree and this guy could be on the other side of it and turn you into pudding,
Mate, we've had many situations where we've been extremely close to them, although I should say they've been extremely close to us. Sure. And we didn't even know. Like even on that particular night, there was a point before Barker getting those particular thermals. So before that, he was watching something around a tree stump. He could see hands moving around the tree stump. Mm. So at one point in time, I left base camp and I said to Buck, I'm going to sit halfway between you and camp, so I'm close enough to you, so I've got you back if something happens. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realise this till we went back during the daylight and tracked these two beings that were standing there. These two beings had 18, 19-inch foot impressions. And I tracked their footprints almost pretty much to where I was. So sometime before Buck captured them, they were standing behind me. So there was a big, massive tree about 10 to 15 feet behind me to the right. And when again in the daylight, when I tracked these footprints, they walked straight up to this big tree, and I was standing beside the tree, which they would have been standing over top of me looking at me. So that's one instance. I heard nothing,
Now,
nothing at all.
are you guys do
There
you
was
guys encounter the smell over there? By the way, the the skunky smell
yes,
that does happen.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I've smelt it 2 or 3 times myself. It's not always reported. It's a bit of a misconception that people have that every time these beings are around,
Yeah.
emit this smell. They don't.
Okay.
If anything, we had more sightings and encounters without the smell than with the smell. And even the interactions I've had, again, like I've only smelt them 2 or 3 times, and I've had many interactions, found many things, heard many things, been very close to them, or heard them move off, or the vocalizations, or the talking slash mumbling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often reported.
Right.
Even on another night in that same area with the thermals, when you leave camp and head in the east to northeast direction, it goes down to a fork in the road. And what we do is we try to always have even numbers so we can pair up, mostly for safety reasons. So you're out there in pairs, not out there by yourself as much as possible. And we're doing it one of the exercises where we go to the fork on the road. Dean and Buck go to the left, and myself and Shane go off to the right. We walk another 3/4 of a mile and just sit in the bush and just wait to see if something happens or whatnot.
Sure.
And we've headed down towards this fork, and Dean goes, "Oh, we forgot to fold out stools. Who wants a stool?" So we've all gone, "Yep, we'll take a stool." So Dean started walking back to camp. I've gone with him. Buck and Shannon stayed at that location we're just at. And what I do when we go out, I won't tell you I'm doing this, but I will do it naturally. So I will mimic your footsteps. So to anything listening, it sounds like there's one person walking as opposed to two.
Oh.
And again, if I do this and I tell you about it, subconsciously you're going to be thinking about it, and you'll start to mix up your footsteps. I've seen it happen. So these days I just do it naturally. I'll walk with you, not around you as such.
Sure.
And I'm bigger than Dean. I'm wearing a hoodie, and Buck has a thermal camera. He's panning around. There's a possum over there. There's another marsupial over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just about back at camp, and Buck comes over the radio and goes, "Did one of you guys just run off into the bush?" We're together. We're just coming back into camp. And he goes, "Yeah, but did one of you two just run off into the bush?" No. And then you could hear Buck wasn't too impressed. I'll leave it at that. And what happened was, as Buck's panned around, he sees a being that he thought was me walking behind me, say like 10, 15 feet behind me. And because I'm walking like behind Dean, and I'm bigger than Dean, so he couldn't see Dean in front of me because he could only see me.
Right.
He then thinks that I'm Dean, and that's me behind me, and then I've run off into the bushes. I heard nothing walking behind me. Even when it went into the bushes, I heard nothing.
Wow.
I can't explain it. Like I didn't. The only thing I had in my ears was one ear, which had the headband, the earpiece for the radio.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Like I had nothing else muffling, stopping sound. I heard nothing.
Wow.
So yeah, we've had many times where we've been super close, or we've been paralleled out of areas or whatnot.
But that probably wasn't a huge one at that point then, right? It would be a smaller one, yeah?
Yeah. When we say small, we're still talking 6 to 7 foot.
Right, yeah. That's true. In scale.
Just a little kid.
Yeah, it's a little toddler.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I got another question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Go for it. All good.
It's from 12 Pearls in our chat. Says, Gary, any time loss or phenomena when you know they're around? Any time loss or other phenomena like that when you know they're around?
I can't tell you, because when we do go out, I love the fact that we're in the forest or we're in the bush and we're connecting back to Mother Earth. So I rarely look at my phone. I don't wear a watch.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of wearing watches and stuff like that. But I rarely look at my phone, so I'll only actually look at the time if it's a specific question or from one of the other team members, what's the time, or a specific reason, I'll see the time. So even on night expeditions, camera phones don't take good photos at night. So for the most part, my phone sits in my camping chair. So the only other strange phenomena I can speak of would be UFOs. We've had it multiple times, and this comes back to, is there a ET Bigfoot connection? I can't say yes or no,
right.
But we have had multiple times where we've had activity and something strange in the skies has flown over top. So we have one circumstance which was above the dam that we kayaked across, and this particular night it was just myself, Shannon, and Dean. Myself and Shannon are sitting at base camp, just having a chat, having something to eat. Dean's maybe 100, 150 feet away, and he's sitting in the dark, observing the area, looking around. He then comes over the radio, says, "I've got something heavy, something bipedal pushing its way through the bush in the valley just below him." So he stayed quiet. He's obviously over the radio whispering nice and quiet because he's trying to remain inconspicuous. So are you okay up there by yourself? Yeah, I'm okay. Okay. Well, obviously, if you need something, let us know. We'll come up there. We're obviously not too far away. Where Shannon and I were sitting, we're surrounded by trees, but directly above us was an open tree canopy. And we know that Dean's sitting up there observing, or I should say listening, to heavy bipedal walking and pushing through the bush down below him. And then a noise happened that made Shannon and I look straight up. If you can think of the sound a stunt kite makes when you dive a stunt kite.
Oh yeah.
That flutter, that flutter kind of noise.
Yeah.
So if you mix that with a mechanical buzz. So we've looked straight up, straight away. Again, it's an open tree canopy above us. And what we observed that flew directly over top of us, which in line of sight would have been directly over top of Dean, directly over top of this being walking down below Dean, was a big black V. No lights, nothing, no lights at all, just a big black, satin black V directly over top of us. And I'm talking, height-wise, 100 feet above us, about that. I looked up. Did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, once we both spoke about what each other saw, what did you hear? Yeah, we both did the same thing. Mechanical kite, buzz, big black V with no lights. And it just kept going.
Wow.
Directly on top of us. So we've had that. We've had other strange lights in the sky fly over the top in certain areas where we've had a bit of activity. Like even that night when we did kayak across, when we had the eye shine, the foot impressions and whatnot. Same night we had two light objects fly over top of us, and the four of us saw that. So time loss, again, I can't say because I rarely look at the phone.
Okay.
For time because I enjoy connecting back with Mother Earth and escaping our technological world, just reconnect. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like we have some very strange sounds that we do hear, but as far as outside paranormal type events, yeah, UFOs.
Wow. That's really wild. And a lot of people are making those comparisons too. And it's anybody's guess. Of course, nobody knows. They could be hopping out of UFOs, or I will tell you that one time I got a report from a person, and the person went on to describe this abduction situation they were in, and it came initially as a dream, but as they're describing it, I'm like, I don't think this was a dream. because of the details that they named in this experience. But one of the interesting thing is that they found themselves in this like room, this real weird room, and the person was sitting on a table, kind of just sitting up on a table, and just kind of came to in that position, and looked around the room, and then realized there was another table in that same room, and there's these weird beings running around in the circumference of this space. But on this other table sat what this person described as a Bigfoot, and she said it looked at her, and she could see the wisdom in its eyes, like it was very much realizing that it was, in this situation, it wasn't an animalistic thing. It was just like, oh no, it was this look of recognition, like, yeah, we're both in this situation. So to me, it suggests that, if these extraterrestrial or other dimensional intelligences are coming and abducting people, and obviously they're carving up cows all the time, and they're doing all kinds of other stuff, God only knows, but why wouldn't they also be checking out these other people that are running around, and they could be investigating them just as readily as they're investigating us? And it makes sense to me. I will say that of all of the behaviors that continually come up in Bigfoot reports and Yowies is their curiosity. They are so curious about things. They will check out campsites. They'll watch people. They'll look in windows, as we already discussed tonight. And they definitely want, they're very intellectually stimulated by things. And so if they're seeing something in the sky, of course they're going to come out and look at it. And my position, and it's just an idea, they could very well be coming from some other reality, and I don't know for sure, but it just occurs to me that, they're very interested in what we're doing. And so just, if you see a UFO go over and all of a sudden you're seeing a Yowie or a Bigfoot, one doesn't always equal the other. It's just, it's just the idea that they could be interested in seeing that too, going, well, what the hell's that? I don't know that one equals two in this case, but maybe it does. I'm not discounting the possibility, but I don't think that we know enough to have any conclusions, I guess is my point.
Yeah, again, that comes back to, we need to stop being so arrogant and acting like we know what's going on. I'm sure there's government aspects, or we know for sure government knows about them, both here and over your side of the fence. But we need to stop being so arrogant. Like, so many amazing things happen that we can't understand and we can't fathom. Mm-hmm. We can only accept it. We just have to stop, again, being so arrogant.
Sure.
And that's why we, especially myself, that's why we will try use our research in different avenues in different ways, not just the one singular avenue, because I don't think that's the way to go about it. Like we, especially with the amount of reports that come through of extraordinary things that do happen.
Right.
You need to use all that with your research, and not just go, no, that doesn't happen. This is how we do it. This is the way it's meant to be done. It's not. You have to be understanding and accepting of different attributes. I'm not saying that people now have to start believing in meditation and energy work and vibration and whatnot, sure, and interacting with crystals. Like again, like we interact with crystals. I have one right, if I can pick up, that little one. This one right here, little clear quartz. Mm-hmm. They had a location. They took that one and a smoky quartz for about 3-4 weeks, and then returned these crystals in this fern arrangement. We even gifted a selenite crystal, and that, which is, it's hidden. Selenite crystal, which did not return, so they like the selenite. We've tried to gift human objects. They move them around at a particular area, but they never took them. Oh. They used to like weave branches and stuff through these objects, even connect two human objects together. Oh. But that's why these days we'll use crystals, because they're of the earth, and we have better interaction with the crystals. I understand that for a lot of people goes to the woo side,
Sure.
Which it doesn't. But that's the way that people see it. But what I'm getting at is that we need to be open to different aspects, and
Right.
not be so narrow-minded in our approach to the research, regardless if it's over here or over there. Like, I even watched the show Small Town Monsters, a location that they go to over your side of the fence where the lady there gives crystals, and in return they were putting skulls up in trees at the same spot she gifted the crystals.
Yep.
The crystal's gone, and there's a skull on the tree, like a return gift. So we need to be more accepting of each other, accepting of different points of view.
Sure.
Again, you don't need to believe everything that is thrown at you.
Right.
Like, you just need to be open to more aspects than, because this subject is not black and white.
No.
I personally used to think that this subject was black and white. I'll happily admit to that. But again, after my own experiences and what I witnessed, what I've seen, what I've found, what I've been told, there's a lot of grey in between the black and white.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all just on the ground floor looking into this, trying to understand a whole lot of things. But I don't think it's just as simple as one thing. I mean, it's not. It would be easy if it was just a relic hominid that's still wandering around, or if it's just some primate that's yet remains undiscovered. But I don't think it's that simple, because there's a lot of variables that, as we dive into this, it's much like the rest of the paranormal. One thing, you figure out that you need to look for one thing, and then you realize 15 other things that you couldn't account for, and now where do they fit? And it really is a puzzle. This is a huge puzzle, but I think, again, this isn't just where things get glitchy and sloppy. I think these things are demonstrating something very important to us, that once, and it's what Tesla said, once we start investigating the non-physical, then we'll make more strides than ever before. And I think this is one of those things. There's a real non-physical aspect to this, or extra vibrational, dimensional / whatever word you want to insert there, that's being demonstrated to us over and over and over in many different phenomena, and this is being one of them.
Yes.
I think the continuity in that is what really intrigues me the most, because sometimes there's not a lot different between a Bigfoot encounter and a ghostly encounter, or a UFO encounter. I mean, there's the bleed through on the phenomena is what's most compelling to me. It's like they're all demonstrating some really profound activity that we don't really understand. But I think it's, again, the breadcrumbs, and it's incumbent upon us to follow the breadcrumbs wherever it goes, even if it's uncomfortable. It's the old saying: you can't fill your cup if it's already full, right? So,
No, exactly right. Your cup should never be full.
right.
And it's even coming back to this whole thing about them being flesh and blood or not.
Sure.
I don't understand why people can't understand why can't they be flesh and blood and still have extraordinary abilities. It's like it's this weird thing where people think it has to be either or. It's the same with us, with meditation, with energy, with opening your pineal gland, even come down to Wim Hof, who he
The Iceman.
the Iceman, he manipulates his body to deal with these cold temperatures and whatnot.
Sure.
That is an extraordinary ability,
Right.
but it's an ability that we can teach ourselves through training and practice, which is the same as meditation, same as a third eye. So being that is an extraordinary ability, I don't understand why people can't merge the two together and see that Bigfoot / Yowie is flesh and blood and might actually still have extraordinary abilities at the same time.
Right.
And I've noticed a lot of people's thinking change when you speak of it like this, because beforehand they were very, it's either or. When you start to have this exact conversation, you can see their mindset change, and they start to look at it from a different aspect.
That's important. Very important.
Yeah.
I would say, I've been throwing around this pet theory of mine lately, Gary, and I'm going to bounce it out there for you to let me know what you think about it. But what if the extraordinary part of this is not in these phenomena, but what if it's in us? In other words, what if we're somehow transitioning ourselves vibrationally or frequency wise to be able to perceive them in their natural state? And then, when they're phasing out, it's us phasing out of the awareness of them. Maybe it's something in us. I mean, maybe there's some trigger that we're tapping into, whether, whatever does it, I don't pretend to know. But maybe it's our awareness that is expanding, and maybe that's why there's a bleed through in all these phenomena, because all these phenomena are doing is existing in their normal state, but our awareness is expanding to be able to receive them and then not. What do you think of that?
Mate, I heard you ask Sarah that last week.
Yeah.
And it excited me. And like it's, the global vibration is rising. People are starting to wake up. People are starting to see the world for what it actually is. And I think that theory, I think that holds a fair bit of weight. I mean, once you open yourself up to the world, you start to see the world for what it actually is. And if there's also a situation going on at the moment where apparently the North and South Pole are actually coming closer together.
Mm-hmm.
Not by massive amounts, but they are moving closer together. When I say that, I don't mean like this. I mean round like this.
Sure.
And if that happens, it creates a thinning on the backside of the planet, which then lets in more universal energy. And in turn, the ley lines on the Earth have actually changed. And scientists have actually found, I think, an extra 2 ley lines since this situation has actually started to happen. So there's so much going on energy-wise, and like with the Earth itself, like just look, regardless of us, just the Earth alone is going through so much. So I think once we can open ourselves up to that energy and that vibration, I think your theory holds a lot of water. It's us, momentarily elevating to their vibration, which is why we see these phenomenal things.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I don't know. Maybe it's something I gleaned from somewhere, so I don't mean to steal credit for it, but it just occurred to me. It's like, wait, maybe it is us. Maybe we're the operator. I mean, we're the common denominator in all these phenomena, right? They always say that, when you look at a repeated behavior through many different, you look for a common denominator. Well, that's us. We're the observers, and we're the ones talking about it and reporting it. So maybe the phenomenal part is really happening in us, and it's showing us an awareness that we could tap into more regularly if we do, make transitions and changes and probably dechemicalize ourselves and don't eat Franken foods and God only knows what else. But, I think that's there. Now, we've been doing something new on our Discord, and I just want to read the question for tonight, and certainly want your input on this too, Gary. But tonight's question was, many believe we're dealing with several types of Bigfoot, which is characterized by varied size and physical characteristics described from eyewitnesses. Do you believe there are different types, or is this just an example of the biodiversity in this race, much like human beings? And we got a couple responses on our Discord, and Carol Motzinger says, I go with biodiversity like humans, and I think that does seem to stand up to a lot of possibility. But the fourth color says, I think it's biodiversity in the Bigfoot race as well, but I think there are different bipedal species running around too, like dogmen, the more Neanderthal-looking wild man, and the other weird things like the Loveland Frogman. Yeah, so that's fantastic, and thank you to those of you who responded on the Discord. Any of you guys out there have any ideas, put it in chat. We'll read those too. But Gary, what's your thoughts?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. Okay. The biodiversity and different types. I mean, like with the different reports that we have come in, plus our own experiences, some have, your typical round sort of head. and look very apish. Others look very human-like.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely, like, if we definitely have two different types. The Junjidi, which are the smaller types. So Junjidi is an Aboriginal term.
Okay.
I also call them brown jacks as well. So with the Junjidi, they're like 3 to 5 foot tall, and they are a separate species by themselves.
Okay.
And then you've got the Doolagal or the Quincan, again Aboriginal names for the big Yowies. They're 100% two separate types. We most encounters are of the larger type. But we had a Junjidi report not long ago where a guy was on his way home at about 11 o'clock at night and going through an area at about 100 kilometres an hour, so about 60, 65 mile an hour. And he's in a Subaru WRX with a body kit and all that kind of stuff. And he comes over a rise and he can see something off to the left, off the side of the road. He thought it might have been a rabbit or a wallaby or something like that, so he started to slow down. And when he got closer, this object stood up, and then he saw it was a human-like figure covered in black hair. And he slowed down even more. He slowed like almost down to a complete stop, and this being started legging it across the road from one side to the other, disappeared in the bushes on the other side of the road. And he said he described it as a professional sprinter, knees up, arms up, across the road. And the reason that this person 100% believed it was a Junjidi, the smaller type, is he's from Fiji. And over there they call them Leka, L-E-K-A, Leka. So over there they have the small beings as well, but they're called Leka, L-E-K-A. And it's commonly known over there that the Leka live in the mangroves. And he's seen them growing up, his family, his uncles, grandfathers, they all have stories about seeing the Leka. But they're all in that 3 to 5 foot tall range. Coming back to Australia, yes, the most reports are of the bigger type. But again, like the biodiversity, like you look at us, we're just like that as well. Different parts of the world, different skin colours, different heights,
sure,
different bone structures in like build of people. So yeah, I definitely think that there's definitely different types out there, but there's also the biodiversity. It comes back to dogman and that kind of thing. As you know, we have dogman reports over here. We didn't have too many, but now, like John Kershaw down in Sydney, he's one looking through the bushes while he was fishing off his kayak.
Oh yeah.
So we are starting to have more and more reports of dogman, and we also have reports of goatman about an hour west of where I am.
Wow.
Haven't had frogman, but yeah, goatman, dogman. So, but yeah, as you know, when Tony Merkel called up and interrupted you on that show, then and he was talking about the dogmen coming through the portal at one of the DUMs, the deep underground military bases.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, and again, going back to what I said earlier. We are just opening up to what the real world is actually about what's actually on this planet, because we're in another new chapter. We've restarted. So again, I think there's a lot more to come, a lot more to find out, and a lot more to experience.
Right. No, brother, I'm with you. I think it's kind of an exciting time in that regard, because I think there's a lot of people that are really kind of springboarding ahead with these thoughts, and the more people out there pursuing it, I think we're bound to get some more answers. Of course, all the work you guys doing at AYR, it's incredible. You guys have really cemented and established the presence of the Yowie and so much more. And I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with next, because I know if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be you guys. So
yeah.
And I'll expect a visit on the show to go over it when.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's been great, mate. I mean, I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And we continually try to get out. We're actually going back to a location next month in September where Dean tried to hit on one's missus. Well, he did, but that's what I say. Where he had an encounter which he may not have come back from because he got too close to a female.
Yeah.
and the big male come out and
Shoved him.
had a crack at Dean.
Yeah.
Listen, Dean, mate, stop hitting other people's misses. Jeez.
Well, he's not crying.
Jokes,
He's
jokes,
playing.
Dean's great. Like he's an awesome person, generous person. Love his company, love his energy. Mm-hmm. He's an amazing person. Same as the rest of the team.
Yeah,
we all really connect very well. A bit like we're all obviously different and have different aspects and different things to bring to the team, but we all gel quite well. So we try to get out there as much as we can. Yeah. Get to these locations, try to see people. Even like this. I'll show you this one here. So this Ren and Stimpy shirt. So that situation. Myself and Shannon went to a death metal concert from an American band called Fit for an Autopsy. And before the show started, where all the merchandise was being sold, and this guy came out. We now know him as Stephen. Hey, Stephen. He came up and looked, because myself and Shannon were wearing the Yowie Hunters shirts at a death metal concert. so Steve's come up and goes, I know who that is. Can I get some photos of your shirts? I watch these guys. I follow these guys all the time. So he's taken photos and he's turned and walked off like it was nothing. I'm like, mate, it's actually us. And he's like, what? He said, it's us. We're the Yowie Hunters. Lost it. Next to know, it's proper photos with him and the band that he was there with, the Gloom in the Corner, Aussie death metal band. Mm-hmm. The drummer was taking photos and he's laughing his ass off as Steve's giggling like a little schoolgirl and whatnot. Which we actually got a shout out at the show where the singer said, if they sell all their merchandise, then the drummer is going to go Yowie hunting naked with us, which that'd be interesting to see. And then, at the end of the night, we drop back in and to say goodbye to Steve and said, what shirt you wearing, mate? Because the whole thing was, as synchronicity happens, an amazing thing. That day on the way up to Brisbane on the tour bus, he was showing the guys band our thermal images and our videos on YouTube. Yep. And then next that night, here's the Yowie Hunters at this show. So at the end of the night, I walked up and said, what kind of shirt you wearing? He's like, I ran a Stimpy shirt, so I'll swap you. He goes, what? I'll swap you. So ripping shirts off. Uh-huh. And so I got it's sorry, Steve, it's a little bit small, mate. So I got his Red and Stimpy shirt that he was wearing, and he got my Yowie Hunters t-shirt. Yeah. So it's awesome. Like the words slowly getting out there. It's becoming more and more of a normalised topic. More and more people are happy to come forward and talk about their experiences. And as you know, Dean started Australian Yowie Research because when Dean had his encounters many years ago, he had nowhere to go. Obviously, there was stuff going on in the US with BIGFOOT activity, but there was nothing reported or documented over here as such. Sure. So that's why Dean started Australian Yowie Research, because, again, there was nowhere to go. So now we are a safe space for people to come to. For sure. Regardless who you are, if you're the average Joe or a police officer, military, scientists, doctors, which we do have all those kind of people contact us. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they remain anonymous. But all walks of life come through and tell us their stories, tell us their encounters, tell us what they found, tell us what they saw. And it is literally every single day that we are contacted from people, not only around Australia, but even from the US as well. We have people from the US contact us to tell their stories and their encounters as well. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing thing. We just keep going. It's great. We love it.
Can you give everybody the rundown of your links and stuff, where to keep in touch with what you're doing, where to check out the YouTube videos?
Yeah, so on YouTube, if you go to Yowie Hunters Witness Reports, you'll find our documented videos on there. So being a documented video, you get to listen to the the witness interview, plus Dean and Buck with his amazing illustrations, does a visual reference as well. So you can not only listen to the interview, but you can actually watch an illustration of what's going on as well. I think there's 180, 190 interviews on there.
Oh, yeah.
Plus some other expedition videos. You should be able to find the thermal videos as well. And I was saying that's less than 1% of the reports that do come through to us. I mean, like we have people from all walks of life. Not all the time people that want to be recognised or put on a platform of this is what I saw, this is what I've seen, this is what I found. Is people going, hey, I just want to let you know. I've got no intention of becoming a Facebook post or a YouTube upload.
Sure.
I just want to let you know that my wife and I were going for a walk, or my daughter. Like I've even spoken to a guy whose daughter had a encounter at a school trip, and it happened. I spoke to him and his daughter literally 2 hours after it happened.
Oh, wow.
And the whole point of it was because he contacted us about it, and he wanted someone to talk to his daughter, to let his daughter know she's not crazy, she's not saying things.
Sure.
So the whole point of it was not to document the sighting.
Right.
It was not to make a YouTube or a Facebook post. It was to speak to his daughter,
sure.
someone who's in the circle and can reassure his daughter,
right.
who was I think she was 9 years old.
Yeah.
That she's not seeing things, and she rode ahead of the class on her bike in the national park, and she was waiting for the class to catch up. Oh. She heard a noise off to the side, and there's this big, massive chocolate brown thing standing there with a branch down. Like she saw everything but the right leg.
Wow.
She saw everything, and she's standing looking at her for about 5 seconds. And then let the branch grow, and then it walked off. So she saw the whole thing. But to her, Dad, I saw something. I don't know what it was. Dad knows what it was because he follows our work.
Wow.
So it was just a case of reassuring her, having a conversation with me, someone who, again, who's in the circle, who's seen my own things and my own experiences and whatnot, to reassure her she's not crazy. She's part of an extremely large community.
Yeah.
But then, we even then have people that, it comes back to, you were speaking earlier about the Sierra Sounds. Mm-hmm. A while ago, we had a guy contact us. What he'd done was in the Sierra Sounds, in video 2, from like 12 seconds to 22 seconds, he'd taken that section out and sent that through to us, trying to say that he recorded that at his property in South Australia. And it's one of those things like, mate, they're the most internationally known vocals. Like as soon as I heard it, it's like, hang on.
I know this one.
I jumped on there. Okay, it's not video 1.
Sure.
Went to video. There it is.
Yep.
I said, mate, like that's the Sierra Sounds. No. I recorded these vocals.
Oh,
I even sent him what the screenshot of the section of video 2. This is your sounds.
Uh-huh.
And then he goes, oh well, I got this photo too. He sends through a photo. I don't know if you remember. I think it was from 2015, 2016. Mm-hmm. If you look up Chukka Bigfoot, so Chukka as in Will Ferrell's movie Land of the Lost.
Oh, yeah.
Chukka. Yeah, there's an image. It might have been from Georgia. I'm not too sure. Don't quite Louisiana. I'm not too sure. It's of a hairy being coming down a hillside, and it looks like Chukka from Land of the Lost. So this person then sent us this photo. I'm like, that's Chukka. I was like, what? And I even sent him the screenshot from my phone, which has the Google search Chukka Bigfoot. There's 10 of his supposed photos that he got. But of course, I come out of the arsehole because that's why people don't take the subject seriously, because we pass people off. But no, you try to rip off Ron Moorhead, and you try to rip off Chukka Bigfoot.
Yeah, I got it up on screen now, Chukka Bigfoot.
It's incredible.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's both ends of this. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So there's both ends of the spectrum.
Sure.
Like those pictures you have up, it wasn't those exact pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it was an image of one running down a grassy hill. But yeah, back to the point. YouTube, Australian Yowie Research. Sorry. YouTube is Yowie Hunters Witness Audio Reports. The website is yowiehunters.com, and Facebook is Australian Yowie Research Official.
Yes.
So those three different platforms, go for it. There's plenty of stuff you can look at. The website is packed with knowledge.
Yeah.
There's an interactive map, which I think if we updated to every report that we got and every interaction we've got, the pins on that map, the whole eastern side of Australia would just be one big pin.
Yeah.
So it's not even close.
Lots of activity.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Well, I'll tell you what else is incredible, having you on the show, brother. It's great to have you on here, and thank you so much for making the time and making this happen. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience as we work through the audio issues. But as you can see, it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. It's been an absolute pleasure, brother. I'm already having calls to have you come back. Oh, can you come back again?
Oh. I'm happy to. Like, I don't shut up about this subject. Like, it's consumed me. Like, it's people on the mountain I live on. People know me as the Yowie guy.
Yeah.
My nieces and nephews call me not Gary. They call me Gowie. So they put a G in the front of Yowie. Gowie. I'm Uncle Gowie.
Well, very cool.
Well, bring it on, mate.
It's been
if you want me to come back, you say when. I'll line it up.
All right, brother. Well, you know that's coming. We'll definitely have you back, and keep us posted as you get out there and find new stuff, man. That's always exciting.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely, mate. It doesn't stop. There's more to tell you. I've got to come back.
All right, man. We'll have you back anytime. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for tonight's show. We hope you guys had a great time. Remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And
what?
Remember to laugh. All right. Good night, everybody.
All good night.